What's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambeau. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can text us 865-658-5824. Join alongside Tim live in Green Bay here to talk some Packers as we're getting close to Packers-Seahawks matchup. We will get to the PFF lineup preview, kind of compare and contrast between their offense against our defense and vice versa. We'll look at the personnel matchups, all that good stuff as well. Got a lot to cover. We're also going to go around Packers Twitter, kind of see what's going on around the Packers, get you your daily news update here. So before we get into all of that, let's take a second and thank our sponsors today, and that's the good folks over at Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. Wisconsin-based since '92, specializing in Packers tickets. They're Wisconsin's largest ticket source with offices next to Lambeau and in Milwaukee. Click on the link in the video description and I'll send you to their website, theticketking.com. You can register there as a customer and go ahead and start shopping for your Packers tickets. Again, that is Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. Tim, I know you had some stuff to take care of last night, bub. How you been doing? Everything all right?
Doing good, man. Happy to be back. Little Christmas party with the missus last night. Back this morning, ready to talk some ball. Pump full of that jitter juice. Got to get the cup of diesel going. But good, man. How you doing?
Doing great, man. Doing great. It's been a good morning. Woke up at a decent time, getting everything kind of prepared. It's going to be an awesome day here in Tennessee. We're excited. So, and really, man, as you continue to dive into this Seahawks matchup, and what you're finding out is they got a pretty darn good offense when you look at it from a PFF standpoint. As Kevin Malone says, what is Seattle? Right. So I think it's going to be a good game. I really do, man. If it was at Lambeau, I would feel a little bit better about it. Now, I think the point spread has jumped from 3 to 2.5, with the Packers being favorites. So what that typically tells you is, okay, if someone's favorites on the road, tack on 3 points. That's really what the line kind of truly looks like. So when you look at it that way, you'd say, okay, Packers are kind of 5.5-point favorites, although the market, because of it being on the road and in a tough environment to play with the 12th man, make it a little closer to that 2.5 to 3 probably. So it doesn't mean, listen, Seattle could come out and boat race Packers. That could happen. That's not what these lines mean. It's just simply, hey, here is how Vegas sees the game and handicapping it and trying to get the money as close to 50% as possible. And last I checked, they were struggling with that, Tim. It seemed like a lot of the money was on the Packers. And there's two different ways you can look at that. You can look at that and go, oh, okay, cool. The public's heavy favorites here. Sometimes that's a bad thing, right, as you look back. But I think it's going to come down to what it has the whole time. How does Jordan Love play? Does he protect the football? If we come out and win the turnover differential, I'll feel really good about this game, man. Just on the surface, though, how are you feeling about it going in so far?
I feel like it's pretty evenly matched teams right here. I think we're in for a treat. We're going to be in for a hell of a football game. I mean, the Seahawks are playing well right now, and, so are the Packers. And this is going to be a huge game, obviously, for both teams. As, the Rams just won last night. So, Seattle is scratching and clawing tooth and nail there in the NFC West, and it's a big game for them. And it's a big game for us as we, battle our way through the NFC North, probably the most competitive, toughest division in the league. So these are two teams that are jockeying for playoff position and trying to close their seasons out strong. So I think at the very least, we're going to be in for a treat on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to mark some of the chat here because it is the conversation looks great in here. Looks like there's some really, really cool stuff being talked about. So let me get a couple of them, Mark. Let's start off with Nick McSwain says, Packers have the second fewest pass attempts in the league. So that got me thinking, how many offensive snaps and they have compared to other teams. If StatMuse is right, they have second fewest offensive snaps. That sounds correct to me. Now, here's the thing. This is where it gets a little tricky, in my opinion, Nick. When we say they have the second fewest pass attempts, okay, that must translate to you have the fewest, one of the fewest offensive snap counts in the league. That's true too. Obviously, as you said, if StatMuse is up to date and correct, second fewest offensive snaps. But one of the reasons is because, like this last game, you punted the first 3 possessions, right? And you'll notice the first down passing was a big key in why they were having to punt. They were getting too aggressive on first downs, right? So especially on that opening drive, that really stalled it out. You're looking at 2nd and 10 as opposed to 2nd and 7 or even a 2nd and 8. It's a world of difference because now it opens up the playbook in the defense. If the defense is playing a 2nd and 10 snap, their play calling changes dramatically from a 2nd and 7, a 2nd and 6, or even a 2nd and 4, obviously. Because now play action's on the table, running game's still on the table. A lot of different things can happen. So that number right there, you can look at it a couple of different ways, right? You can say, oh, well, we just haven't had the ball enough. Well, one of the reasons we haven't had the ball enough is because we're being too aggressive on early downs and stalling out drives, right? And it's easy to blame the defense, but when you look at an offense that starts the game going 3-and-out, 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 then it's hard for me to go, what the hell's the defense problem? But they were on the field the whole first quarter, basically. So it all plays hand in hand. This is what Matt LaFleur is always talking about, was saying complementary football, right? Again, they've got one of the best offenses in the league. The offense is the least of my concern. I have no problem thinking the Packers can score 25 to 35 points in any given game, right?
On any of these teams, anyone in the NFL. Yep.
Absolutely. I mean, when you just drop 30 on the Lions defense, right?
Yep.
And so again, it's just it all comes down to the flow of the game, and that's why we really key in on the middle eight. And then obviously the turnover differential can flip a game around in a heartbeat to where you have to, oh crap, now we've got to throw the ball because we're down by a couple scores. If you go back and watch the first Detroit Lions matchup, obviously. So, but great comments there from him. Nick went on to say, so they had the second fewest snaps on offense in the league, but they're 6th in points per game. Does this show their efficiency, or boom/bust? I'm leaning towards efficient. I think they're very efficient when they don't get too cute and don't get too aggressive, right? It's just like, some people were talking about how the red zone defense struggled, and specifically inside the 5 and the 10 there about the second quarter of the season. And you go back and watch the tape, the answer is always on the tape. That's what I tell people. Like, just go watch the tape. It's there. Everything you need to know about what happened and why did it happen is on the tape. You run a lot of jet sweeps, inside the 5, stuff like that. It's like we're trying to get too cute. And then you guys remember a couple of weeks ago, Tim, we talked about it, the flea flicker on first down. Remember that?
What the hell's going on out here?
Yeah. And I know there's a portion of the fan base that says, when it works, you don't complain. Absolutely. That's all.
Yeah, it usually doesn't work on first down, though.
Yeah. And here's the thing too, is like, why do you feel feel necessary to do that when every other aspect of your offense is just cranking, right? It's just like when we get inside the 5, if you told me, Clayton, you're starting at the 5-yard line, you're going to give Josh Jacobs 3 chances to get in the end zone. I love my chances. Yep. I love it.
I'll run it 4 times with Josh Jacobs inside the 5-yard line.
You could call a 22 dive and him end up in the 5 gap on the opposite side and score a touchdown. He's got that cutting ability, right? You could go with a 26 duo and him end up what would have traditionally been a dive, him cutting back to the inside. But when you get inside the 5 and the call is a jet sweep, I'm going, what are we doing here? You're trying to gain 5 yards through having the ball carrier run 35 yards. You know what I mean? It's like, this is not good. So those little things are what I think has played the biggest role in that. Now, here's what's cool. You got that on tape, and obviously teams have been shutting it down. So now you can show some of that jet motion and actually give the ball to the back or run play action off of it, right? So, again, I think it's early downs. You just got to lean on the run, man. Press into it early. Jordan Taylor in the chat, good to see you, buddy. He says, on a serious note, under the ideology of overpay for great, what could the Packers do to go all in on acquiring Micah Parsons? Cowboys have payroll problems and needs picks / young talent. Yeah, in my opinion, Jordan, I don't think they're going to get rid of Micah Parsons. If you were to go get a premier pass rusher, it's going to take a lot of draft capital, and then you've got to have a contract ready for that guy too, right? Yep. Now, when you're modeling your roster, and this is what we talked about the other day, what money do you have allocated to those positions right now, right? Kenny Clark is one of the highest paid defensive tackles in the game. Rashan Gary is – I'm going to see where Gary hits on the cap hit, because this is a conversation. We're already off topic. I love it too. This is a conversation that gets had all the time, like, talking about the money that Gary's making. Let's go slow track real quick. I'm going to get this pulled up. But you got to ask yourself, okay, the money allocated to those specific positions, and, are you going to end up putting too many resources into those specific positions if you go after someone like a Micah Parsons? And again, I got to say this because I'll get messages, I'll get emails, I'll get texts, I'll get people in the comments going, you guys are crazy. You think you get Micah Parsons? He's just posing a question. Hey, would it be stupid to go overpay for someone like that if they were on the market? That's all we're doing here, okay? Yep. Rashan Gary cap hit this year was only $11.1 million. Now, next year, it jumps to 25.5, okay? And then it goes to 28, and then it goes to 31. But keep in mind, his salary jumps in 2026 to 18 million, then to 21 million. So the majority of the guaranteed money is going to be gone after 25, 26, really. So really after 25. And typically what will happen if you want to keep a player around for an extra year and then you cut them loose, then you may tack on avoidable year or two, spread that 25 cap hit out, and then allocate for it later on down the road. Now, I'm not saying we should do that, but when it comes to Gary is your best pass rusher, right? He's whether it's pressure percentage, whether it's sacks, he's also been a hell of a run defender this year. We've shown that over and over on Chalk Talk in key situations, key positions. So you're looking at acquiring a Micah Parsons. I don't see it happening, someone like that, because you've got the money allocated to Gary, but more importantly, to Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark's the one who's truly underperformed this year. Whether you look at sacks compared to last year, you look at pressure percentage compared to last year. I mean, he's like sitting at like 6% pressure rate this year, right? And some of that may come into effect with, okay, how are they playing him? And we've shown the touch spies and him occupying double teams and things like that. We've shown that he's played one tech probably 70% of his snaps this year too. I don't think Micah Parsons would be on the table. Now, when we talk about, hey, you should go get another edge defender or another 3 tech, what we're talking about is in the draft. You've got to prioritize it because when you get that draft pick, Tim, obviously that salary cap hit is way, way lower, right?
Yep.
Than if you go and if you go and get Micah Parsons, you've got to pay him top of the market money. He's not agreeing to that trade. He's not coming to Green Bay if he doesn't know this specific contract's on the table, right?
Yep.
And it goes for any other edge defender in the game that might be on the market, right? So
what are your thoughts on salary cap? Aside being overcommitted with your cap hit in certain position groups, look at the overall picture too. We got to pay Zach Tom. We're going to have to pay. There's cap room that's going to get eaten up by some of these other guys on the team. Rasheed Walker comes to mind. I'm sure he's not going to get buku dollars and be a massive cap hit, but there's guys that are looking for their payday, and quite frankly, a lot of them have earned it. So and I think a lot of the Micah Parsons, the Packer fans getting excited about, maybe putting together a deal for him. That's all coming off of the, the most recent Dallas Cowboys performance, and, Micah being clearly frustrated with what's going on over there. So that's adding fuel to this fire. But I'm with you, Clay. I don't see a scenario where they're going to bring him in here, or that he may necessarily even want to play in Green Bay. Yeah.
Right. And again, it's going to come down to, how does that team look moving forward? Is Mike McCarthy going to be the head coach? There's a lot of different things. That's going to come into play there for sure. Shout out to Brambo, who just gifted a gifted one Packer Fan Total Access membership. Appreciate you, Brambo. Thanks for supporting the show and giving some lucky listener that membership. And shout out to Brambo too. He was actually the winner of our autographed Romeo Dobbs card. We did not hear from our first place winner, so that'll be going out to him. And then this week, we're going to be giving away an autographed Lucas Van Ness jersey from pristineauctions.com, just like this green one right back here. So a certificate of authenticity, all that good stuff. LVN's starting to crank up. It's looking like the more reps he gets, he's being more comfortable. And that's why I'm kind of backing off of, hey, we need to go get another edge, because the last few games, like LVN's starting to pop. But I'm all on board with, we need another defensive tackle. We got to go try to find that dude of the future. It's going to anchor this defense for Jeff Hafley. But what I want to look at here is edge real quick. And it's a little bit, there we go, edge. That should put them all together. Let's kind of see where the cap hits are and everything. So here you go. This is a perfect example. Let's look at the cap hit ranks for 2024, since we were kind of talking Rashan Gary. Here are your top cap hits at the edge position, okay, across the NFL. Max Crosby, $30.4 million cap hit this year. TJ Watt, $30.4. Joey Bosa, $21.6. Khalil Mack, $25.5. Montez Sweat, $25 flat. Harold Landry, $23.8. DeMarcus Lawrence, $20.4. Myles Garrett, $20.1. Trey Hendrickson, $20.1. Bradley Chubb, $15.8. Brian Burns, $15.5. Von Miller, $14.8. We're going to have to go on down here to find our boy Rashan Gary. Rashan Gary has the 20th highest cap hit in 2024.
Yeah, I don't want to hear fans crying about Rashan Gary.
He got the bag. He got all this money.
Stop it. Just stop it. Von Miller's got a higher cap hit. Von Miller's 200 years old. This is, I don't want to hear it anymore. Leave Rashan alone.
Yeah, and
let that man cash his checks.
And next year when it jumps to $25 million, right?
Yeah.
There's others that are going to jump. There's also going to get new deals that are going to be done. That's going to reset the market, right? And keep in mind, we have him under contract till 2027, I believe it is, right?
Yep.
So when he jumps to 25 million next year, he still would have been the fifth highest paid in terms of cap hit defense or edge defenders in the entire league. Yep. If his cap hit next year, right? And we're trying to stretch it out to fit the argument of, hey, he's overpaid, right? He would be the fifth highest paid this year on his cap hit next year, which we know these numbers are going to go up next year. You'll probably have the highest cap hit next year. I imagine will probably be around the 30 mark, and you're going to see a lot of these that are in this mid range are going to jump just like Rashan Gary's did. So, and again, I want to say this for the people that aren't big Rashan Gary fans. I get it. He's having a down year. We've said that all along. But to pretend like, man, this guy ain't worth the money, it's mind-boggling to me because you gotta have that edge defender. You gotta have it. And the big thing that I'm impressed with this year, or at least appreciative of when it comes to Rashan Gary, is how he's shown up in the run game. Yeah. The true problem, Tim, I haven't looked too deep into it, but I've seen people talking about it on Twitter the other day. That final play against the Lions, they didn't even have Rashan Gary on the field. You know, that run play? Like, who the hell made that call? Like, that was mind-boggling to me. Like, you got to take a second, get organized, and make sure your best players are on the field. I do love the fact that Gary doesn't complain about that stuff, though. He just does what the coach says, team guy. Let's go. Let's get it, right? So
that's why a big reason I've always felt Rashan's worth every penny. You got a guy that's never going to be toxic in your locker room, a guy that's never going to be he's not going to pull a Devondre Campbell on you. And, that's valuable in this league right now. And, Rashan is consistent and he's a good teammate. And, even a down year is still better production than, 40 to 60% of the guys in his edge group in the league. So I'll take it.
Yeah, definitely. So there is your we're already off cuff. I put notes here. We're going to stick to this, but anytime the chat mentions something, we're going to definitely hit it. So we appreciate you guys if we got time. Number one Packer fan says, I lean towards Gary is doing what is asked of him, which is giving the appearance of a down year. Again, like we said, man, and Randy said the same thing. Gary's playing within the system. Everybody's pressure numbers went down. That can't be all of a sudden. We said this in like week 3, right? Looking up there going, hold up a minute. All these guys didn't just all of a sudden forget how to pass rush. And then lo and behold, we go from 26 in run defense to 9th in some metrics and others 5th or 6th, right? So it doesn't take long to realize, okay, that's what's going on. And then you can see it with the stunning and like I said, the one defensive lineman occupying a double team and lagging back and kind of taking that cutback lane away. So let's see here. Chase Green in the chat. Good to see you, buddy. He says, do you agree we need to draft defensive tackle first round and a center second round? Theoretically speaking, yeah, if that's how the board fell. But it's not just, okay, here's our top position, our top need. Let's go get that with the first round pick. I know there's some fans that believe that. I know there's some people in the media, they go, they always say it's best player available, but conveniently the best player was that position. Mm-hmm. Your board is created based off your needs. Then after that, what I mean by that is you're going to allocate a lot of scouting time to those positions of needs. But like Jordan Love, for example, I don't think they spent a whole lot of time scouting quarterbacks that year. I think Jordan Love was one of the top quarterbacks, and they had a grade on him. Yep. And as they're geared up looking at other positions, we get to the draft night, and Jordan Love falls to him. It's like, hey, this guy's Aaron Rodgers, same thing, right? Aaron Rodgers, when they drafted him, they looked up.
That story. Oh, yeah.
Ted Thompson asked Kevin Harlan out of the draft room, right? Kevin, can I speak to you in the hallway real quick? Yeah, cool. He said, all right, this kid Aaron Rodgers is on the board. If he's there when we pick, I'm going to take him because he's the best player on the board, period. Like, he's got the highest grade. Got to stick to the board. And he said, I just wanted you to know this is Ted Thompson telling Kevin Harlan. And Kevin Harlan told this story. So I'm relaying that. Kevin Harlan said, Ted, it's your team. And Ted said, I just want you to know we're going to catch some backlash for it. Yep. And boy, did they, right? So that's, so when you're talking Do you agree we need to draft a defensive tackle with the first round and a center with the second round? If it's the best player available on the board, absolutely. What I mean by that is, let's say the best player available, let's say there's 3 people on the board when we pick in the first round. One of them is a D tackle, one of them's a cornerback, and one of them's a wide receiver, right? And they all have the same draft grade. Take the D tackle, hands down. You see what I'm saying? Like,
if the grade's not where you want it to be, trade back.
All right. Now, keep in mind, guys, we talked about this last year about the cornerback position and safety. They did it at safety, obviously. And they went out and got Xavier McKinney, which we backed off the safety position a little bit because we felt really good about the Xavier McKinney signing. But they didn't even take a corner till the 7th round. So we're not sitting here saying this is what the Packers are going to do. This is what we're saying as fans, looking at the tape, looking at the analytics. Here's where we feel like the top needs are. And to me, defensive tackle is the top need.
I was going to say Chase hit on two out of our 3 right there, with this question, right? Defensive tackle or center. I mean, we look at our list, we had defensive tackle, edge, and center. Those are our 3 priorities. So, hopefully the football gods let the draft board line up with our needs. But like you said, Clayton, it doesn't always work that way,
Yeah. And then you got the whole factor of precedent, right, within the Green Bay Packer organization. And what I mean by that is I'm of the opinion that if the best player, the highest graded player on the board is a center, take him, right? I have no problem with that in the first round. However, you got to go off of what the Packers have done in the past. When was the last time they drafted a center in the first round? I can't think of it ever happening. You know what I'm saying? So we're not trying to predict. We're telling you what we would do. And then we're always going to throw in that caveat. Well, here's what the Packers have done historically. This is probably the direction it's going in. That's
they
why
did what we wanted them to do. Creed Humphrey would be our center right now, probably.
Bingo. And when you look back in the past of what's happened throughout the draft process in Green Bay, and like the night of the draft, I remember when Jordan Morgan was taken, he wasn't my best player on the board. He was in the ballpark. He was within the five best prospects on the board. And when you look at him, you go, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. He's a tackle with versatility. They'll play him all over the offensive line, right? This makes sense from Green Bay's standpoint. But again, he wouldn't have been my pick. If it's within 5 or 10 on my board, I go, makes sense, right? Yep. Because you're kind of splitting hairs. And again, they may have had the best grade on Jordan Morgan. They probably did. That's why they took him, right? My board, never take my board over what the Packers do, because obviously they have a lot more resources and way more football knowledge than I'll ever have in evaluating talent. It doesn't mean they're going to hit every time everybody misses, right? So, all right. Andy Watkins says, in 2 years, is Monk our guy? Could be. It could be. I know they were very, very high on him. All the beat reporters were talking about everything they heard out of 1265 was they love Jacob Monk. So he could be the center of the future. I kind of hope he is, Tim. If that's the case and you come out next year and Jacob Monk is the center, and what if he's the next, I don't want to say Zach Tom, but let's say he's the next just solid offensive, the next Rasheed Walker, but at the center, right? Then you feel really good because you got him under contract for 3 more years on pretty much a minimal deal. And now you got the center of your future, and that would have been what they were talking about, having the center of the future in the building. That would be a great situation,
I agree. But, again, we don't have a crystal ball, right? We can't really predict, but, man, that would be nice. Mm-hmm. Certainly would change how we approach, the Josh Myers deal moving ahead, right?
Yeah. Coach Lynn says other teams were high on Morgan, also like Arizona and the Bucs. That's the other thing that comes into play. They've got their board set up, and then they got their rumor board. And what I mean by that is the same draft board, and then next to those players, they've got the teams listed that have been rumored to be interested in those. And then you look up and go, okay, this guy here has 4 teams that we heard rumors they were interested in him, and some of it could have been smokescreen, but more information is better than less, right? Yeah. So if you look up and you got 3 prospects with the same grade, and one of those prospects have 4 teams interested in him, and the other 3 only have 2, you're probably going for the one with the most interest because A, their scouts may have seen something you didn't see. B, you've got the same grade as all of these players, all 4 of this cluster of players. And then 3, C, whatever I was doing, letters or numbers. you're saying, okay, he's probably not going to be around. Way, way less likely he drops to us at our next pick. And in some cases that happens, right? You look up and you got, man, this guy that we almost took in the first round or the second round is still there in the fourth. Take him. That's JJ Enigbare. So
that's why teams put up smoke screens during draft time, right?
Exactly.
Sometimes you fake interest, or you act like you're not interested, just to kind of see how the market changes and swings. It's awesome. It's one of the cooler things about draft season for sure.
Yeah, definitely. As they call it, they refer to it as lying season, right?
Yep.
That's what they always call it. All right, let's go through the news real quick. We're behind, but I'm glad we had that conversation. Thank you guys for bringing that up in the chat. Pretty cool to see Jordan Love getting more praise nationwide. Sunday Night Football on NBC put a tweet out. Jordan Love has been on fire the last few weeks.
Here's the guy.
67.1% completion percentage, 226 passing yards per game, 6 touchdowns, a 118.8 passer rating. Toyotathon is alive and well with Jordan Love as he's cranked it up here. So I just wanted to highlight that real quick. Now, the news of the day that really dropped yesterday was Devondre Campbell, right? I put this tweet up. I said, man, life comes at you fast. Another stop for Devondre Campbell and another team at fault, I'm sure. So I put the tweet up where he had tweeted back in May. I can't even lie. I'm having so much fun playing football again. The situation I was in, meaning Green Bay, was making me lose my love for the game, but I'm back having fun again, and I love that for myself. Thank you, God. And, of course, I quote tweeted Ari Miroff mentioning the 49ers linebacker Devondre Campbell told the team he didn't want to play anymore. He left the game in the third quarter of tonight's game, talking about last night's game, per head coach Kyle Shanahan, right? Of course, he hit on it. Here was Kyle Shanahan's actual comment. If you'll throw me a graphic up there real quick, Tim, that one we typically use. I'll adjust it for you. For the presser, there's some Matt LaFleur presser. It'd be fine. It'd be good. Anything would be fine, really. But here we go. Hey, that's perfect there. All right. So here was Kyle Shanahan when he was asked about Devondre Campbell last night.
What happened with Devondre Campbell? He didn't play, and he went into the locker room at some point.
Yeah, he said he didn't want to play today.
Play today?
Yep.
The coaching staff?
He did when I asked him why he didn't want to go in. So
During the game or before?
no, that was in the third quarter.
One more time.
Devondre Campbell, he didn't play, and he went into the locker room at some point.
Yeah, he said he didn't want to play today.
Play today?
Yep.
The coaching staff?
He did when I asked him why he didn't want to go in. So
During the game or before?
no, that was in the third quarter.
So it sounds like, Tim, first of all, hit him with what Holmes said here for me if you don't care, but you got to give him one of those. He deserves it. Jerry?
Sit your butt outside.
So it sounds like they tried to get him to go into the game, and he said, no, I don't want to play tonight.
He pulled an Antonio Brown and just retired on the spot.
I'm assuming so.
I don't think Devondre Campbell plays another down of football in the NFL after this.
He's done.
He's done.
Yeah. Here was his teammate Charvarius Ward, and this was tweeted out by @NFL Retweet. Here's what he had to say about the situation.
I mean, he's a professional. He's been playing for a long time. I mean, if he didn't want to play, he shouldn't have dressed out. You know, he could have told him that before the game. So I feel like there was some sucker shit that he did. Definitely hurt the team because, you know, D went down. And we needed a linebacker, you know. And I think Flynn was named up too. So for him to do that, that's some sucker stuff to me, in my opinion. Like, he's probably going to get cut soon. So.
He's probably going to get cut soon. I bet he is, Charvarius.
Or at least suspended, right?
Yeah.
Conduct detrimental to the team kind of deal.
Yeah, definitely.
He'll probably finish the season being suspended, you know?
Yeah. Here was George Kittle's take on it. Shout out to, and it's just a Twitter handle. Don't judge me here, okay? African Java, all right, was the one who tweeted this out. I want to give credit because we're playing that video on here.
Who?
Here was George Kittle, arguably the leader of that San Francisco 49ers team, right? Like he's definitely in the top 3 of leaders on that team. Here's what he had to say about it.
Does that create dissension or disbelief or just disconnection on the sideline?
Not disbelief or disconnection like as a team. That is one person who just decided not to, play for his teammates. And I don't think that doesn't make our offense look at each other and be like, wow, man, we're falling apart. It's more of we're like the defense, hey, we're falling apart. It's more of one person making like Mooney said, a selfish decision. And I'm with Mooney on that. And I've never been around anybody that's ever done that. And I hope I'm never around anybody that does that again.
Don't worry, George. Nobody will be around Devondre after this.
No. Now, so, and here's Bramble in the chat. Appreciate you, buddy. He says Greenlaw came back and played ahead of Campbell. Then Greenlaw got dinged up, and Campbell refused to go back in. So, think of the rotation.
Me. It's about me and how I feel. Me. Yeah. Bye, Dre. See ya.
It's one word that people roll their eyes at when it's talked about because they get so used to fantasy football, and there's nothing wrong with fantasy football. They get used to playing Madden where you got ratings. There's nothing wrong with Madden, but it's put the best player in. There's a thing called culture, and it is real. And culture in Green Bay is perfectly fine, right?
Yeah.
And again, this was one of the players that wanted Joe Barry gone, right? And that was the Cat Williams. If you guys seen that tweet that I put up, with Cat Williams kind of looking off to the side eye, like, all right. Joe Barry right now going, all right, yeah, there you go, guys. And here, think about this: the players that spoke out, it sounded like I think it was Savage, Devondre Campbell, and there was someone else that spoke out on Joe Barry, basically saying like this was common knowledge in the locker room. They didn't want to play for him. They're all gone. I like the way the Packers handle it. Okay, cool. You guys don't want to play for this DC? Cool. Joe Barry, you're gone. And the players that complain, you're gone too. Get them out of here. Let's just start clean. And lo and behold, we look up and we got a much better situation here. So
what a coincidence. It's like, for Dre, the, Atlanta Falcons were the problem, then it comes to Green Bay, Packers are the problem, despite, resurgence in your career, playing in this system, having an all-pro year. And then you decide to basically fall off the face of the earth. And then now, Green Bay is the problem. And then you go to San Francisco, you're rejuvenated again. You feel great. And now apparently the 49ers are the problem. I don't get it. The one thing I will say that though about this is you never know what someone's dealing with.
Right.
Anything I worry about, Dre Campbell's mental health at this point, or what his mindset is with what he's doing. So, you want to be respectful of that, but at the same time, you quit on your team, man. And you've got a team there in San Francisco that you aren't the only one dealing with struggles. You aren't the only one facing adversity. Was it Ricky Pearsall was shot earlier this year? He's playing football. Dre Greenlaw fighting back from injury. You had Fred Warner with, massive injuries. Your quarterback had injuries. You've got, Charvarius Ward here with his comments that man lost a child this year and is still playing football for his team. So I don't understand, what's going on with Dre Campbell that would prevent him from, quite frankly, putting his helmet on, getting his ass on the field when the coach asks you to do it. I don't understand.
And again, I'm glad that you mentioned that too. You don't know what people are going through. It's so true. It's so true. We just want to point out for the 49ers fans' sakes that, he wanted to come play for a real team when they signed him. And then he put that tweet out there. 49ers are not going to make the playoffs, it appears. And here the Packers are right there in the playoff hunt. And they had the same problem with Campbell that we had. So there you go. Randy hit the nail on the head. If everywhere you go it smells like crap, check your own boots. Probably dragging that around with you down the sidewalk. I'm just saying. I've been there, done that. All right. I think we all have. So let's move on to the playoff picture real quick. I wanted to hit on this before we dove into anything else.
Playoffs?
So I wanted to point this out. I just kind of did a little projecting here, okay? Week 15, let's say everything goes wrong for the Packers, okay? If everything goes wrong for the Packers this week, they lose to the Seahawks. Everyone that we need to win actually loses, okay? So worst case scenario, the Packers will still be the 7 seed. Okay. If everything goes bad next week, including us losing to the Saints, and everyone wins that we're
not losing to the Saints on Mark Murphy Appreciation Night, Clayton.
Listen, this is not a prediction. We're just showing this is the kind of lead that the Packers have. And I want to put I want to draw a line in the sand going, hey, if everything goes south for the next 2 weeks, this is where we got to go. All right. Crap's got to end. If we're going to make the playoffs, this is worst case scenario. We got to win at this point. If everything goes wrong in week 16 and the Packers lose to the Saints, we're still the 7 seed. All right. It's when you get to week 17 that, and I've already got everybody in that we would need to win, right? So worst case scenario, if you lose to the Vikings and every other game goes against the Packers, that's when you fall out of the playoffs officially, okay, is the 17th, week 17. That doesn't mean you can't make the playoffs. I'm simply saying that's the point in which the Packers could drop out of the 7th seed, all right? And this is all worst-case scenarios, the reason I'm showing it. Now, if everything goes against the Packers in week 17 as well, and you beat the Vikings, you're still the 7th seed. So we got a nice little lead here. Like, okay, we're feeling good about where we're at. It doesn't mean we're not going to try to hold on to the 6 or even climb up to the 5. It's just simply showing. I like to look at the last 4 games of the season this way and go, okay, at what point do you hit the, oh, crap, we're in trouble button, right? Packers come out and take care of business this week. I imagine they should be able to clinch by week 16 if they win the next 2 games. You know, there's probably a scenario where, okay, they clinch the playoffs. And you guys may know that in the chat. If you do, just throw it up there. But, again, just want to point that out for sure. So, anything you want to add to that, Tim? I was just going through earlier going, okay, at what point do the Packers fall out of even the 7th seed? That's when it would happen, is week 17, if everything goes completely against the Packers. So
I agree. I just I see the projections like Packers projected to go 10-6. You're telling me they're going to win one more game this year? Right. I don't see that happening. So, exactly. But I'm with you though. You know, you have to prepare for the worst. Because you never know. I mean, we've got 4 games left here down the stretch. You know, they all matter. I don't care what anyone says. And if you look at our schedule, there's no gimmies. There's no, you know, I mean, I joke about the Saints. You know, Mark Murphy night. We got to take care of business at home. I mean, anyone can beat anybody in this league. We know that. You know, the Saints game might be the closest thing to a gimme that there is, but everything else is going to be a battle. So. I do see the Packers winning more than 1 game, though, before the end of the season.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. And so now we've reset the criteria to this week. Obviously, the Rams beat the Niners last night. So let's say let's go through and pick the games real quick. Just a quick look at week 15 and kind of see what could – let's go best case scenario. Since we looked at worst case scenario, let's look at best case scenario. So let's say the Ravens beat the Giants. Let's say the Panthers beat the Cowboys. Let's say the Saints beat the Commanders. People are going, there's no way this is going to happen, Clayton. Again, this is best case scenario. Patriots beat the Cardinals. Let's say the Bills beat the Lions, which I'm excited to see that Lions-Bills game. That's going to be a fun one. Yep. Chargers beat the Buccaneers. Steelers beat the Eagles. Packers beat the Seahawks. Let's say the Bears somehow, some way beats the Vikings. The Packers are still in the 6th seed at 10-4, okay? But they're now within striking distance of climbing up to the 5 seed with 3 weeks to go. Right, you're only 1 win behind the Vikings in that scenario. So just want to kind of give you guys best case scenarios and worst case scenarios as we're moving forward. So anything else you want to add to the playoff picture, Tim? I just want to kind of quickly take a look at it and see where things sit there.
No, I think it's important to do that, best case and worst case scenario, because we have seen throughout this year, my theory has kind of come true that we're really not getting help. But that's been the case thus far. We've still got, you know, a month left of football. Now could be the time. You start seeing teams get hot. You start seeing other teams fall off. You get a few shockers. Like you said, I fully think, you know, you look at some of these games, I mean, it's possible. I firmly believe that Buffalo is capable of beating Detroit. So that could happen. That could be a realistic thing. You know, the same thing when we look at the Steelers and the Eagles. Now, obviously, you know, those teams taking L's doesn't really affect us too much, but, you know, you could see a scenario where, you know, the Bears get a dub over the Vikings. You know, that could happen. As crazy as things have been down there in Chi-Town. But, you know, I think at the end of the day, we know the moral of the story is just make the playoffs, right? We saw what this team did last year. We obviously don't want to go in as a 7th seed again. But honestly, I feel like we can play with anybody in this league, and regardless of where we're seated, I think we can get some victories and make a run at bringing Lombardi home.
Yeah. Carl K in the chat said, thanks for the fallout analysis, Clayton. I've been waiting for this. You're the first I've seen to put it up. And again, I don't like to focus on negative stuff, you know, but it's just laying out all the scenarios. That's all we want to do, right? And you kind of get in the situation. All right, now we know what's on the line here. Again, you win like I think who is it here? Anton Miller says 2-2. I think is reasonable. I think it is too. Now I think the Packers could win out as well.
Yeah, see, that's the other end of this scenario. We could be positive, and they could go on to run. Really, we're going to see Sunday night. You know, how this team shows up, how this game goes Sunday is going to be a good indicator of how we're going to finish out this season, I think. Because, if you look, other than the Vikings, Seattle's definitely the toughest opponent we have left in our schedule, for sure.
Yeah, and as Anton Miller says here, should be able to go 3-1. I think that's reasonable too. Like if you can get a win in Seattle this week somehow, some way, right? And then you beat New Orleans, and then of course you can beat Chicago in the last week. That gives you a little bit of flexibility to drop one to the Vikings if you have to, right? Again, if you win outright and the Vikings lose a couple games, though, you're going to slide into that 5 seed. That would be really cool. So when you look at the Vikings schedule, as a matter of fact, since we're talking about that, we got a couple minutes here on hour 1. Let me do this real quick. First of all, where was it at? It's all right. I lost it. Okay. So when you look at the Vikings schedule, let's clear all the criteria. Let's just see what their remaining schedule looks like. They got the Bears at home this week. All right. That should be an easy win for them. Then they're at Seattle next week. So they'll get that same matchup we're getting this week. So they got to travel to Seattle. That's not a gimme. You'd like to think they're definitely going to be the favorite there. And then we go to Minnesota, right? And then they play at Detroit. So let's go ahead and chalk it up as a loss for the Vikings, Week 18 versus Detroit, okay? And let's say that we take care of business against Minnesota in Week 17. Here's what I'm saying. If we beat Seattle, right, and then we go beat the Saints that are banged up, and we go into the Vikings, that game right there, it's going to be real simple. The Vikings lose that game to us, and then they lose to Detroit the next week, we are the 5 seed if we win out.
Then we're in business, baby.
Mm-hmm. That's it right there with the pinky out and everything. So it's going to be interesting, man. I love the playoffs, and I love this playoff simulator machine, whatever it's called on ESPN, and shout out to our Aaron Rodgers, not the Aaron Rodgers, but our Aaron Rodgers for suggesting it so long ago, man. It's a cool tool to kind of follow along for sure. So, all right, we pretty much got that covered. So with that being said, that's going to do it for hour 1. For those of you listening on the pod, we will see you on the other side for hour 2. We appreciate y'all.